I never thought the biggest shock of my life would come from a simple plastic tube I spit into. One little test, one click of a button, and suddenly, everything I believed about my marriage, my family, and the man I loved for 12 years completely shattered. Hi everyone, my name is Emma. I'm 34 years old, and until 8 months ago I thought I had the kind of life people quietly envied. A beautiful home in the suburbs, a handsome husband who worked hard, and our 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who was the center of our world. I was the woman who planned family vacations, remembered everyone's birthdays, and still made David his favorite coffee every morning before he left for work. I believed we were solid. I believed we were forever. But looking back now, the signs were there. The late nights at the office, the way his phone suddenly had a new password, the distance that grew between us even when we were sitting right next to each other on the couch. I told myself it was stress. I told myself that every marriage goes through seasons. I ignored the quiet voice inside me that whispered something was wrong. I remember the exact day I decided to take the DNA test. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Lily had been asking questions about her grandparents' history for a school project, and I thought it would be fun to do one of those ancestry kits together. Just a mother-daughter thing, something innocent. I never imagined it would destroy the foundation of my entire life. The kit arrived 2 weeks later. We made a little game out of it, spitting into the tubes, laughing as we sealed them. I mailed them off thinking it would just tell us if we had some Italian or Irish roots. Nothing more. Life continued as normal, or at least that's what I thought. Then the results came. I was sitting at the kitchen island when I opened the email. Lily was coloring at the table beside me. The first part was normal, some distant cousins, a bit of Scottish heritage. But when I clicked on the paternity section that the company offered as an add-on, my heart nearly stopped. 0%. It said David was not Lily's biological father. 0% match. My hands started shaking so badly I dropped my phone. It clattered onto the counter. Lily looked up at me with those big innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, are you okay?" I forced a smile and told her I was fine, but inside I was breaking into 1,000 pieces. How could this be? We had planned for Lily. We celebrated when I got pregnant. David had cried in the delivery room when she was born. He held her first. He was there for every milestone, and now this cold, clinical report was telling me none of it was real. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of our bed watching David breathe peacefully beside me, and I felt like I was lying next to a stranger. All those years, all those memories, all those I love yous, were they all built on a lie? That was the beginning of the end, and what I discovered in the weeks that followed would change me forever. I waited 3 days before I said anything. I needed time to breathe, to think, to not completely fall apart in front of my daughter. On the 4th night, after Lily was asleep, I asked David to sit down with me at the dining table. I had printed the results. They were sitting there between us like a bomb. When I showed him the paper, his face went pale. He stared at it for a long time without speaking. Then he started crying. Not the kind of tears you cry when you're caught doing something small. These were deep, heavy sobs, the kind that come when someone knows the game is over. He admitted everything. He told me that 6.5 years ago, right around the time I got pregnant with Lily, he had been having an affair with his colleague, Rachel. It started as harmless flirting at after-work drinks and turned into something physical. He swore it only lasted a few months. He said he ended it when he found out I was pregnant because he wanted to be a better man. He claimed he loved me and that Lily was his daughter in every way that mattered. But the DNA test didn't lie. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. I remember standing up from the table and backing away from him like he was dangerous. My voice shook as I asked the question that haunted me most. "Did you know? Did you suspect she wasn't yours?" He couldn't look me in the eyes when he answered. He said he had doubts. Lily's blood type didn't perfectly match what they expected, but he pushed the thoughts away. He told himself it didn't matter. He loved her. He raised her. She called him Daddy. I felt invisible, like my entire role as a wife and mother had been some kind of performance, while the man I trusted most had been living a double life. The pain was so heavy, I thought it might crush me. For the next few weeks, I moved through our house like a ghost. I smiled for Lily. I made dinners. I folded his laundry. But inside, something was changing. The shock slowly turned into anger, a quiet, burning anger that grew stronger every single day. I started noticing things I had ignored before. The way Rachel still worked at the same company. The way David would sometimes check his phone and quickly put it away when I walked into the room. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know the full truth, no matter how much it hurt. What I learned destroyed whatever was left of my heart. The affair hadn't ended when I got pregnant. It had continued for almost 2 years after Lily was born. There were hotel receipts, messages, photos. Rachel had even met Lily once, pretending to be just a friendly coworker. The betrayal wasn't just one mistake. It was years of lies, years of him looking me in the face and choosing someone else while I planned our family's future. I cried in the shower so Lily wouldn't hear me. I screamed into pillows. I questioned everything about myself. Was I not enough? Not pretty enough? Not exciting enough? But one morning, as I watched Lily sleeping peacefully in her bed, something inside me shifted. I was done being the victim. I was done protecting a man who never protected me. I was done carrying the weight of his secrets. That was the moment everything changed. I decided I was going to take my power back, not with screaming or fighting, but with cold, calculated truth. I started planning quietly. First, I spoke to a lawyer, a very good one. I gathered every piece of evidence, the DNA results, the investigator's report, the financial records showing hotel stays and secret accounts. I made copies of everything. I protected Lily's future and mine. Then I waited for the perfect moment. David's company was throwing their big annual gala, the same company where Rachel still worked. Everyone would be there, colleagues, bosses, clients, even some of our mutual friends. It was the perfect stage. I dressed carefully that night. I wore the red dress David always said made me look beautiful. I did my makeup, styled my hair, and smiled at him when he told me I looked stunning. He had no idea what was coming. At the gala, I waited until the speeches were over and people were mingling with drinks in their hands. I walked up to the small stage where they had given out awards earlier. I took the microphone. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I told them everything. I told them how I had built a life with a man who had been lying to me for years. I told them about the DNA test that showed 0%. I told them how their coworker Rachel had been involved with my husband while I was pregnant and raising our child. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply told the truth with quiet dignity. The room went completely silent. Then the whispers started. Phones came out. People stared at David and Rachel, who were both frozen in shock across the room. I watched David's face turn from pale to red with humiliation. Rachel tried to leave quickly, but people blocked her path, asking questions. I ended my speech with these words. I spent years being the perfect wife. Tonight, I'm choosing to be the woman who refuses to stay silent. This is my truth, and I hope it sets me free. Security didn't remove me. They actually escorted David and Rachel out instead. The company president looked horrified. Later, I learned David was placed on immediate leave pending an internal investigation. The affair with a subordinate violated their conduct policy. The revenge didn't stop there. I filed for divorce the next morning. Because of the evidence I had, I received full custody of Lily, the house, and a very favorable financial settlement. David's reputation in our city was damaged. Many of our mutual friends distanced themselves from him. Rachel ended up resigning from the company after HR got involved. But the most important part wasn't their public embarrassment. It was watching David try to explain to Lily why Mommy and Daddy weren't going to live together anymore. Watching him realize that the little girl he called his daughter now looked at him differently. The consequences of his choices finally caught up to him. I won't lie and say it was easy. There were still nights I cried. There were moments I questioned if I did the right thing by speaking out. But every time doubt crept in, I looked at Lily, happy, secure, and loved, and I knew I had done what I needed to do. Today, Lily and I are building a new life. A quieter one, a truer one. I've started painting again, something I gave up when I got married. We have dance parties in the living room. We talk openly about feelings. I'm teaching her that her worth doesn't depend on anyone else's lies. To anyone listening who is going through betrayal right now, I want you to hear this. Your pain is real. Your anger is valid, but you are stronger than what they did to you. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's choosing to rebuild your life so beautifully that they become irrelevant to your happiness. The DNA test said 0%. But my strength, my worth, my future, those numbers are 100% mine. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, drop a comment below. You're not alone. And remember, sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free. It sets the record straight in the most beautiful way.